Narrated by Dante Mohammed. Chapter 2. Party. A tall, lanky young man with dark green hair and eyes jogged up to Aiden and Lucy. He had a lopsided grin on his face, and he folded his arms in front of him. "I have been looking for you two. Well, specifically Aiden. No offense, Luce, but you are a babe killer." Lucy giggled and shook her head at her cousin Justice. Justice was only 10 months younger than they were. He was her Uncle Jason and Aunt Jin's son and Destiny's younger brother. Aiden and Justice were naturally close. In fact, Justice had taken on his unofficial role to be Aiden's guardian. Guardians were only for fairy royalty. It was a long story about their lineage, and she often just left it out because people didn't understand, but they were descendants of fairy royalty. In fact, her father was the fairy prince before he became the king of the werewolves. With fairies, it is the queen and princess who hold all the power. It is their children that get the royal titles. Since their father was the fairy prince, both her and Aiden would not be considered fairy royalty. Her cousin Alexis was, though. She was the fairy princess and one of her best friends. Justice's dad, Jason, is also her father Wyatt's guardian. This is where Justice got the idea of making himself an honorary guardian of Aiden's. Lucy looked at her awkward cousin. He was always a character to have around. But if a fight broke out, you would want him on your side. Both him and his sister Destiny were part werebear and part demon. But what was remarkable was how close their powers were. It was almost as if they had become their own species. Neither one could shift, but they had a very unique power. In fact, special swords were made for the both of them that they could harness their powers. They could materialize their swords from thin air when they needed them. This wasn't just true for them, but their other cousin Rain was the same way. She was part Kelpie and part werebear, but her powers were similar to Destiny and Justice. Her parents and relatives always insinuated it was the work of the moon goddess, and they believed this was planned for the future. But who really knows? Lucy and Aiden were part werewolf, fairy, witch, and vampire. But because of their father being the werewolf king, their wolves reigned supreme. They just had extra abilities, but were basically just very dangerous werewolves. In a sense, Aiden and Lucy were a bit different from the other werewolves. She smiled as she watched Justice animatedly talk about these hotties that came from another pack. He was getting Aiden all amped up and begging him to help fix him up for the night. Ugh, men. Or boys. She couldn't decide what they were. Man-boys? They were somewhere in between. Hey, by the way, Desi is leaving the pack tonight! She decided she was ready for Harley to claim her, and he doesn't want to wait another night. Justice grinned. Mama is excited for her and is of course a blubbering, jumping, excited mess, but Dad took Harley to the side and is having a nice little chat with him. I'm guessing it is along the lines of, I killed 2 hellhounds during the war, and if you mistreat my daughter, I have no problem adding you to that list. Blah blah. Though according to Uncle Tristan, Dad only killed 1 hellhound. Justice chuckled. An ongoing discrepancy in the family is how many hellhounds his dad and 2 uncles had killed. Cody and his dad claimed 2, but their Uncle Tristan took the finishing kill, so added it to his list of 4 hellhounds killed. Uncle Jason is only saying that in good fun, and even Harvey knows it. We all know how much your dad respects and depends on Harley. Lucy shook her head, smiling. But you males always have to put on a show, which I think is really your inner insecurity crying out. Inner insecurity? Aiden let a crooked smile raise on his lips and turned to look at his sister. Is that what she said? Justice smirked at Lucy as both man-boys faced off against her. I didn't stutter. Lucy planted her hands on her hips, tilting her head to the side. A side smile spread over her face as she waited for them to make a move. I think I need to show you my poor, insecure strength, Aiden said as he pumped his chest out with an exaggerated fake manly laugh. Maybe they were just boys. Justice fake pounded his fist in his hand. I say we make her beg for mercy. Touch my future princess and you'll be the ones begging for mercy. The soft baritone voice sounded as a blur planted at Lucy's side. Jasper, whose side are you on? Aiden furrowed his eyebrows at the vampire. She told us that us males are insecure. Jasper quirked an eyebrow down to Lucy. Is that right, Luce? he said, taking a step away from her and standing next to Aiden's side. Well, then I do think a punishment is in order. Lucy rolled her eyes. They were like a couple of yappy little dogs, all bark but no bite, at least when it came to her. Jasper was vampire nobility. His father was the Vampire King's brother. In other places, he would be considered a duke, but vampires didn't use those titles. He was just considered higher up among the vampires. Jasper was fun, goofy, and considerate. And with his pale skin, blonde hair, and brown eyes, he was quite the ladies' man, and he knew it. His parents were close with her family and always tried to make it for special events. Plus, it was their way of staying in close contact with Lucy since she was to be their princess. And Lucy was glad to be so close to Jasper since she wouldn't feel as homesick having a good friend like him around. As much as I love punishing Lucy, there are a few ladies back at the party who were looking a bit lonely. And with Jasper as our wingman, I think we have an in, Justice said. Hey, what about me? Aiden huffed out. Jasper's way smoother with the ladies, Justice chuckled. Well, you in, Jasp? I don't know. I came here to hang with Luce. Jasper looked over at Lucy with a guilty, hopeful look. Lucy giggled. Get out of here, you morons. And let's hope those girls don't have any brains, otherwise you are all out of luck. Ouch, Luce, my heart. Aiden pouted, clutching his chest. I hope they are shallow because that's our in. Between looks and title chases, we have an in. Justice shrugged. He didn't care. An in was an in. He graduated and he was ready to celebrate. Jasper winked at Lucy and then the three boys strolled off together. They were laughing and pumping up their egos. Like she said, insecure. Lucy smiled and shook her head. Ah, well, she loved them and their obnoxious ways. And there was a small part that was jealous of them too. They could all go off and flirt with random girls. None of them had mates and were free to enjoy their youth, when everyone knew that Lucy was spoken for. She walked towards the pack house and toward the party in the back. Destiny would be attached to Harley somewhere, and that is who she usually hung out with. But maybe Rain and Alexis would show up. Their families had these unique pearls that would let them teleport to the location of the other pearl. There were a total of 4 of them, and one piece would be going with Lucy when she left the diamond pack. But she wasn't sure if they were coming since they had come to visit just the day before for a smaller family celebration. Today was more of a big formality for the other packs to feel involved. She saw her father, Wyatt, immediately when she walked around the corner of the house. He was always busy taking turns talking with all the different pack members present. Most alphas didn't miss the opportunity to meet with their king, and so when there was a party, they knew a lot of different packs would attend. This meant her dad didn't have a lot of extra time during the party. Sorry, I need to steal my husband for a bit. Lucy watched as her mother, Freya, saved her father from whatever boring conversation was going on. Her mother was an amazing person. Not only was she wise, but she was incredibly strong. Once upon a time, she was called the Huntress. She was a well-known demon hunter, but was now an amazing queen to the werewolves. Lucy watched as her parents made their way over to her. Lucy, my baby girl, where is your brother at? Wyatt asked, wrapping his spare arm around Lucy, hugging her into his side. I think Aiden right now is with Jasper and Justice. They are trying their luck with some of the fresh meat available. Lucy rolled her eyes with a laugh. Wyatt sighed. He really needs to start getting more involved in these political tasks. You can barely stay awake during them. Don't torture our son with them already. Freya elbowed him slightly and smiled up at him. Is Grandma and Pap coming? Lucy asked. You already missed Mom and Dad. They stopped by for only a short while but couldn't stay. There was some flower blooming ceremony that your grandma has to bless, especially since your Aunt Rhea hasn't taken over her full responsibilities as the Fairy Queen yet. They plan to come back tomorrow. Wyatt watched as his beta Sam walked over towards them. No, Sam. No more. Freya giggled as she listened to her mate whining over his duties. And you wanted to burden your son with this. Look at you. Sam chuckled. Sorry, Alpha. There are 2 packs disputing territory lines and it is starting to get heated. Wyatt rubbed his forehead and sighed. He grinned and looked over at Freya. This one sounds like a job for my queen. You don't want me to handle it. If I start handling these entitled Alpha Pack problems, we are going to have less and less packs to worry about. Freya gave him a crooked grin. Wyatt pretended to consider what she was offering. I'll go with you and give you a hand. For some reason, they seem to behave better when I am around. That is because your deadly reputation precedes you, my dear. Wyatt kissed the top of Freya's head. All right, Sam, lead us to them. Lucy, Freya looked over at her daughter. Go and enjoy yourself. You don't always have to act like the perfect princess. She winked at her daughter as she walked off with Wyatt. Lucy always behaved as expected, but she wanted her daughter to have a bit of fun and experience life. If only they could blend Lucy and Aiden's personalities together, they would be perfect. Aiden was always more wild and had a tendency to get himself in trouble. But soon he would be burdened with a lot of responsibility, so she was fine with him enjoying himself for now. Lucy walked over to an isolated bench away from the party commotion and sat down. Enjoy herself? Hard to do when everyone was afraid to approach her. Between her family and already being promised to another, most people politely avoided her. Well, most men did. I see I am not the only one looking for a quiet place to escape. Lucy turned her head up to see a set of baby blue eyes looking down at her. The man had a dazzling white smile with cute dimples, and he didn't hide the fact that he was openly eyeing her up. Her cheeks flushed slightly. No one had ever been this bold with her. He must not know who she is. It's Lucy, right? He asked, keeping his grin wide. Lucy smiled and nodded her head. Okay, so maybe this party would be a bit more fun. The Vampire's Promised Bride, written